I'll bury you under that lake, Patricia screamed when I caught her. This Karen had posted my private lake for sale online. $50,000 to random investors. She even called the cops, claiming I threatened her. But I'm a real estate expert with 15 years of experience. I knew exactly how to stop her. There was something about her property she didn't know, something that would change everything. Now, let's just say she can't even get near her lake anymore. Want to know how I did it? 3 insane twists coming. Where are you watching from? Every morning I sit by this lake with Duke, my golden retriever. This is where Emily, my wife, once dreamed we would grow old together. Marcus, when we retire, let's buy a ranch with a fishing lake, she used to say, her eyes sparkling as she flipped through those travel magazines. But life has a cruel way of shattering dreams. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light and stole Emily from me forever. I could not stay in our house where every corner whispered her name. So, I sold everything and bought this 5-acre ranch with a 2-acre lake. It was the exact place from a magazine clipping Emily had kept. This was my way of keeping her dream alive. After 15 years as a real estate appraiser, I had seen every dirty trick in the property game. But I was done with that world. Here, I wanted only peace. Duke became my sole companion, this beautiful golden retriever that Emily had given me just 2 weeks before the accident. The ranch provided perfect isolation. It was far enough from town to avoid the pitying looks, yet close enough for weekly grocery runs. The crown jewel was this crystal-clear lake, surrounded by willows that danced in the breeze. Every evening I would sit here with my fishing rod Duke at my side, finding comfort in the gentle lapping of water against the shore. Then Patricia Gray moved in 6 months ago, and my sanctuary began to crumble. From day one, something felt off about this 48-year-old woman. She immediately proclaimed herself president of the Meadowbrook Women's Association, which was laughable considering our community had maybe 20 households. She would knock on doors with her fake smile, pushing petitions for community improvement and economic development. Most folks were polite but distant. Behind her back, neighbors started calling her that city woman with rolled eyes, talking about untapped potential and modernization opportunities. What I did not know then was Patricia's desperate situation. She was not just annoying, she was dangerous. Patricia had fled the city after her real estate brokerage collapsed. She had been caught forging signatures and pocketing deposits for homes that were never for sale. She owed the bank over $200,000 and had borrowed $50,000 from some very unforgiving people. If I don't pay them in 3 months, they'll break my legs. I would later hear her sobbing on the phone. She had changed her name from Patricia Coleman, dyed her hair, and fled to our rural community. But running from debt does not make it disappear. Her plan was to transform our community into Patricia Lake Eco Resort. She had already created brochures and compiled lists of investors. The centerpiece of her vision was my lake. My private, peaceful lake that had been Emily's dream. She had studied county records and calculated that controlling water access could make her millions. In her mind, she was being a visionary entrepreneur. The fact that the lake belonged to me was just an inconvenient detail. After all, what was one widower compared to her grand ambitions? Monday morning changed everything. I woke at 6:30, as usual, made coffee, and fed Duke. We were heading out for our morning walk when my phone started ringing. Strange, I thought. Checking the caller ID. Unknown number. Then another call, and another. By 6:47, I had over 50 missed calls and dozens of text messages. Is this Marcus? I'm interested in the lake property. Will you take $60,000 cash? I'm flying in from California tomorrow. My hands trembled as I opened my laptop. There it was, plastered across real estate groups and marketplace listings. Patricia was selling my lake. Incredible opportunity. Private 2-acre lake in pristine condition. Perfect for development. Price to sell at $50,000. Contact Patricia Gray, authorized representative. The posts included professional photos of my lake from every angle. She had used a drone to capture aerial views. There were even development mock-ups showing potential cabin sites. My sanctuary, my refuge, my last connection to Emily, reduced to a commodity. Duke sensed my rage and started whimpering. My first instinct was to call the police, but I knew that would take time. This required immediate confrontation. I stormed out, Duke racing behind me. The quarter-mile to Patricia's house had never seemed shorter. I found her watering her roses, wearing that fake smile. "Good morning, Marcus. Lovely day, isn't it?" she chirped. "Are you insane?" I shouted. "You're selling my property on the internet." Patricia's smile never wavered. but her eyes turned cold. Oh, Marcus, don't be dramatic. That lake has been underutilized for years. I'm helping our community recognize its potential. Think of all the jobs and opportunities. The lake is mine, my private property. You have no right. I stepped closer, my fists clenched. Rights. Patricia laughed. Do you have proper documentation, or have you just been squatting on public land? I have connections at the county assessor's office. They tell me property lines here are quite ambiguous. This was a lie. My deed was ironclad, taxes paid annually, but her confidence made me pause. Then I noticed her hand moving behind her back, working her phone. Don't think you can intimidate me, she continued, voice rising. I know your type, bitter old men, who think they own everything. Before I could respond, Patricia's demeanor changed completely. Her face contorted in fake terror, and she screamed, "No, please don't hit me. Help somebody. Help me, he's going to kill me." She threw herself backward, knocking over plants. Her phone was already connected to emergency services. I stood frozen as Patricia continued screaming. He said he'd bury me under the lake. Please, call 911. Within 5 minutes, I heard sirens. 2 police cruisers roared up Patricia's driveway. 4 officers jumped out, hands on their weapons. Patricia ran toward them, hair, disheveled mascara running. Thank God you're here. This man threatened to kill me. The lead officer approached me carefully. Sir, step back and put your hands where I can see them. Officer, she's lying. I came here because she's illegally selling my lake online. Sir, calm down. Hands visible now. The officer's tone begged no argument. Duke growled at the officers, and I had to grab his collar. The next 30 minutes were the longest of my life. Officers separated us, taking statements. Patricia spun an elaborate tale of harassment and threats. Meanwhile, I tried to explain about the lake, showing them screenshots on my phone. The officers looked skeptical. Thank God for Mrs. Henderson, who lived between our properties. She had security cameras that captured Patricia's yard. When officers reviewed the footage, it showed me standing still, while Patricia threw herself backward. No physical contact, just a confused man and his dog. The sergeant's expression hardened. Ma'am, making false reports is a serious offense. Patricia's tears dried instantly. That video doesn't show everything. He threatened me before. The sergeant sighed deeply. Both of you need to work this out civilly. No more confrontations. Ma'am, don't call us unless there's real danger, sir. Don't go to her property again. As the police left, Patricia caught my eye and smirked. She had lost this round, but showed no shame. Duke and I walked home slowly, my mind racing. Patricia would not stop. She needed money desperately, and had identified my lake as her golden ticket. But as we reached my property line, something clicked in my memory. 15 years in real estate had taught me about easements, abandoned properties, and forgotten parcels. That night, I pulled out my old survey maps. If Patricia wanted to play dirty, she would learn that this widower knew some tricks. By midnight, I had found something interesting in the county records. Something Patricia had definitely overlooked. Patricia just called the cops and falsely accused me. But she doesn't know that I've discovered a deadly secret about her land. What do you think I found? Comment below. The next 3 nights blurred together in a haze of coffee and bloodshot eyes. My dining table disappeared under stacks of property, records dating back to the 1950s. Duke watched me with concern, occasionally nudging my hand. Every property has a paper trail, and after 15 years as an appraiser, I knew how to follow those trails. The work was tedious, cross-referencing plot numbers with tax records. But I was driven by something stronger than Patricia's greed. I was protecting Emily's dream. My laptop screen glowed with county maps while I compared them to yellowed paper surveys looking for discrepancies. Meanwhile, Patricia escalated her campaign. Every morning at 8 sharp, she would lead groups of potential investors past my property, pointing at the lake. I watched from my window as she distributed glossy brochures featuring my lake with photoshopped cabins. Patricia Lake Resort and Spa, the mock-ups proclaimed. She had hired someone to create a professional website with virtual tours and investment packages. The audacity was breathtaking. She organized preview events in her backyard, setting up tents with champagne and appetizers. Duke would bark every time the groups got too close to our fence. Patricia just smiled and told investors that the current occupant will be relocated soon. Thomas Murphy, my 72-year-old neighbor, stopped by on the 3rd night. His family had farmed this area for 4 generations. "Marcus, you look like hell," he said bluntly. That woman's got the whole county talking. 40 years I've lived here, never seen anything like it. He had brought a casserole from his wife, Linda. She's trying to steal my land. Thomas, I explained, showing him the online listings. His face darkened. My granddad always said, the worst. Thieves wear the nicest clothes. You need help, you ask. We all remember when you and Emily first came here. We won't let some city con artists take that away. By the third night, exhaustion was taking its toll. Duke had barely touched his food, stressed by my unusual behavior. My eyes burned, and I had started seeing deed numbers everywhere. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, I found myself staring at Emily's photo. I don't know if I can win this, I whispered. She's got money and connections. Maybe I should just sell and leave. Duke whines softly. But then I remembered Emily's last visit to the lake 2 days before the accident. She had stood at the dock, arms spread wide, laughing at the sunset. This is perfect, Marcus. Promise me we'll never leave. I had promised, thinking we had decades ahead. Now that promise felt like a sacred vow. I returned to the documents with determination. At 2:15 in the morning, I was examining a 1960 county survey book when something caught my eye. The property boundaries in this area had been redrawn several times as farms were divided. Patricia's lot had been carved from a larger farm in 1985, but there in faded ink was an anomaly. A small rectangular plot, 75 square mi, sitting between Patricia's eastern boundary and my lake access. The surveyor had marked it Plot X, unnumbered, with a note about uncertain ownership. My exhaustion vanished. I cross-referenced with tax records and found the last owner, Joseph Wilson, who had died in 1987. No heirs were listed. The property had been forgotten for 37 years. That night, I sat at my dining table surrounded by old survey maps. 15 years in real estate had taught me one thing. Every property hides secrets. By midnight, I found something Patricia had completely missed. A strip of forgotten land, Plot X, that stood between her dirt road and my lake. Without it, her eco-resort dream was nothing but smoke. At sunrise, I was first through the doors of the county land office. Rita, the clerk, looked up, surprised. Marcus, you're here early. Patricia's trying to steal my lake. I told her, I need answers. She frowned, pulling dusty records. That plot you're asking about? Joseph Wilson owned it. Died in 87. No heirs, no will. 37 years of unpaid taxes. The county should have claimed it, but it slipped through the cracks. It'll have to go to auction. 3 days from now. Word travels fast in small towns. By that afternoon, Patricia knew. I spotted her at the courthouse, then later at the grocery store. She cornered me between the apples and potatoes, her voice sugary sweet. Marcus, I hear you're interested in that tiny strip of land. Planning some gardening. I smiled, casually, just tidying up boundary issues. Her eyes narrowed. Well, may the best bidder win. She was rattled. Good. 3 days later, rain tapped against the windows of the county meeting hall. A handful of locals filled the room. Patricia walked in wearing a sharp power suit, briefcase in hand, radiating confidence. But she wasn't expecting my guest, William Johnson, a retired theater professor, now playing the role of a wealthy developer. He shuffled in with a rumpled jacket, thick glasses, and 3 phones. He looked the part perfectly. The auctioneer began. Plot X, minimum bid 500. I raised my hand. Patricia snapped back. 600. William jumped in, voice booming. 1500. Her head whipped toward him. She hadn't expected competition. 2000, she said tightly. 2100, I countered. William sighed dramatically. 5000. Exactly what my clients need. Patricia's face flushed crimson. She slammed her briefcase shut. 7500, the room murmured. William called a fake associate, muttered about authorization, then bid higher. The tension was delicious. Finally, Patricia shouted, 10,000. The room fell silent. William shook his head. Too rich for my blood. I'm out. I followed suit. Same here. Congratulations, Miss Gray. For 3 whole seconds, Patricia beamed. Then the realization hit. She'd just paid $10,000 for a worthless strip of dirt. What she didn't know was that, while she fought for Plot X, I quietly purchased Plot Y, the mirror strip on the opposite side, for $800 in a private sale. Without my land, her purchase was useless. A sidewalk to nowhere. At 4:30 the next morning, headlights cut across my driveway. Trucks rolled in, carrying steel posts, concrete, and cameras. Jake Morrison's crew, the best fence builders in 3 counties, got straight to work. 3-meter steel fence, electronic gate, motion cameras. You preparing for war, Marcus? Jake grinned. Something like that, I replied. By dawn, the fortress was rising. At 6 o'clock, Patricia stormed out in her silk bathrobe, face twisted with rage. What the hell is this racket? Stop immediately. Good morning, Patricia, I said calmly. Just improving my property. Perfectly legal. I've got permits. Her eyes darted to the fence, realization dawning. That's the access road. You can't block it. Actually, I said, pointing to my deed. This is plot, why I own it. Your $10,000 strip doesn't touch the lake. Her voice rose to a shriek. This is harassment. I'll call the police. Go ahead. Working hours for agricultural land start at 4:30. Everything is legal. By 7:15, the barrier stood finished. 8 feet of galvanized steel topped with deterrent wire, reinforced with cameras and solar-powered locks. A fortress protecting Emily's lake. At 8 o'clock sharp, Patricia emerged in full realtor mode. Navy suit, pearl necklace, her brightest smile. Behind her, 25 investors in luxury cars, notebooks in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, welcome to the future, Patricia Lake Eco Resort. But when they rounded the corner, their jaws dropped. Instead of a pristine lake, they faced my towering fence. No trespassing signs gleaming, cameras blinking red. Miss Gray, is this a joke? One man barked. Where's the access you promised? A woman snapped. This looks like fraud, another growled. I strolled over with Duke at my side. Morning, folks. Hate to interrupt, but this here's private property. Patricia owns a strip of dirt. I own the only path to the lake. The investors erupted. Deposits shouted. Demands for refunds. Threats of lawsuits. Cars roared out of her driveway as quickly as they'd come. Patricia's smile crumbled into ash. But Patricia wasn't done. She staged false police reports, even bribed a nervous neighbor to lie. My security cameras exposed every trick. And when she tried to poison Duke's water bowl with antifreeze, it crossed a line. That's when I went public. One post the truth about Patricia Gray with evidence. Her fake listings, police reports, and security footage. I added her real name, Patricia Coleman, along with mugshots and fraud records from Florida, Texas, California. Victims flooded in, sharing stories and losses. The internet did the rest. Overnight, Patricia's reputation was obliterated. Reporters called, the FBI opened an investigation, and neighbors finally saw her for what she was, a predator in pearls. Her trial was packed. The prosecutor laid out her scams across 7 states. Fraud, forged deeds, witness tampering, even attempted animal cruelty against Duke. I testified. So did 23 victims. The footage spoke for itself. Patricia's defense crumbled in less than an hour. Guilty on all counts, the jury declared. 2 weeks later, the judge delivered the sentence. Patricia Coleman, you are a career criminal who has destroyed lives. I sentence you to 18 years in federal prison, with restitution of $317,000. Her legs buckled, shackles clinked, and just like that, her empire of lies collapsed. Weeks later, the community gathered for a lakeside barbecue, though everyone called it the Patricia's Gone Party. Neighbors toasted, kids played, and Thomas Murphy raised his beer. Marcus, you stood up to a bully and won. Emily would be proud. I glanced at the lake, sparkling in the autumn sun. Duke barked happily, chasing butterflies along the shore. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Patricia was gone, but Emily's dream lived on. Every ripple in that water carried her memory. Sometimes justice comes in handcuffs. Sometimes it comes in the simple joy of protecting what's yours. So I'll ask you, have you ever had a neighbor from hell? How did you fight back? Share your story below. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't anger. It's protecting your peace.